Yep. Planet of the Apes 2001. We have made it this far on the road to the kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And I had to bring on someone who knows this movie inside and out because it was my first time watching it, but he is an expert at it. It's Jacob Collins from 3D Movie Cinema. Jacob, how you doing?
Well, I was just doing so well. I was just sitting there doing heroin, watching it, just working out to it, getting it, playing the Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. And I'm like, feel it, good vibrations playing, just getting ready for it, playing Danny Elfman's weird ass score, you know. So yeah, I'm
You,
ready for this.
do they have that Wahlburgers restaurant in Mrs. fucking Sippy?
Well, fuck you. First off, fuck you. And secondly, no, they don't. Okay.
No, they should.
Mark Wahlberg probably would never come to Mississippi. Okay. He's a Boston guy. Yeah, which by the way, yeah, what's does he have, is there any Mark Wahlberg restaurants in the Wahlburger restaurants in the Florida?
I
Probably
don't
one.
I don't believe so, no, but if there was one, it would probably be in Universal.
Do you really think that Mark Wahlberg is like, oh, the Mark Wahlberg restaurant?
Planet of the Apes 2001 is a reimagining of the original from 1968, and it starred Mark Wahlberg, Helena Bonham Carter, Paul Giamatti, and Tim Roth, among many others. And this was the first Planet of the Apes movie of any kind since Battle of the Planet of the Apes in 1973. And I did the math at home. 28 years between Battle and this reimagining. It's Burton's words, not mine. But in my research, come to find out there was actually plans to bring Planet of the Apes back even sooner. And one pitch that you brought up to me, Jacob, when we were texting back and forth, this was supposed to have like a Roman theme going on. So explain that to me.
Well, for instance, there's been several pitches. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger even had a pitch for
Yes, I
one
did read
that was
about
going to
that.
be like Quantum Leap, but with apes. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
That was one that was too trippy. But then it was, I guess, when after Gladiator had come out, the studio was like, oh, we should really do like a Roman Empire. I think it was Steven Spielberg or Oliver Stone that was suggested because both of them were interested in directing this remake or reimagining. Sorry, they were based a remake. Let's just say it's a remake. It says the same freaking title. Like and then it says based on the novel by Pierre or something. And so basically, they were both interested in remaking Planet of the Apes. And so what happened was, I think it was either Oliver Stone or Spielberg that suggested, why don't you make it like the Roman Empire, the Roman Empire type story? And he said, why don't we use like apes and it's like medieval and everything? And then I guess they're like, Gladiator had just come out, was huge. And so they're like, what if we make it like Gladiator, but with apes? And then of course that Mark Rosento or whatever, I guess, started working on a draft for it and said, what about and then of course they went through several drafts, and then of course Tim Burton came on after Steven Spielberg left the project to do Minority Report. And then of course Tim Burton came on and said, I don't want to remake it. I want to really just adapt it from the book. So that's Tim Burton. That's what he don't remake stuff. He says I adapt it from the book. That's how he explains Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's not a remake of Willy Wonka. It's an adaptation of the book.
Well, I need him to explain his two awful Alice in Wonderland movies to me, but that's a whole nother conversation for a
They're
whole
adaptations of the book. My shitty creative freedom.
with Johnny Depp dancing in the middle of a battle, but that's
Johnny Depp was considered for the lead villain in this movie, Thad. He literally
that
was considering having Johnny Depp as the villain. I'm like, really? The villain, not the lead hero, but the villain?
that does not surprise me in the slightest, considering A, it's Burton, and B, Helena Bonham Carter is also in this. And it's like there's some
This
cosmic
was their
law
first movie
where they
together,
have to
too.
appear in the same stuff always and forever.
Which this was the first movie they did together. Like this is how they met. They met on this and then got married after this movie.
Oh well, love can spring up in the strangest places.
Mark Wahlberg said that he got the role. He said nobody wanted the role because they wanted to read the script first, and Fox did not have a script ready, and because they were rewriting this movie as they were shooting. Like the writers were on set behind Tim Burton. Tim Burton was telling them when, in fact, even Tim Roth was rewriting his lines, and so it was that much of a production because they literally started shooting They had a July 2001 release date, and they started shooting in November 2000.
Wow,
They did
that's
not
not
wrap until April of 2001.
wow, that's not good. But is that this movie like a new Planet of the Apes movie took a lot like to get to like this point, and it's like between Battle of the Planet of the Apes and now this, it was like the two share a common theme, and that is like jumbled scripts with just a mess of ideas. But this is my first watch of this one, and I had heard that this movie had a reputation for so long. I've seen the Nostalgia Critic video of it. I've seen a bunch of reviews trashing it, and so there was a part of me that was like, okay, this is probably going to be the bad one of the bunch. And honestly, this movie's not as horrible as I was expecting it to be. It's not particularly great. It's not my favorite, but I after I was done watching it, I was like, why
I
do
like.
people hate this again? Like, it's not amazing, but it's not terrible either. It's just kind of there, I guess. There are good ideas, but that's about it.
There are the first. I will say the first two acts are actually feel like, oh my god, this is a good film. Like but then it's where the third act, once they escape, like the city and everything, and they go, and that's where it starts. You could feel okay, this is where the rewrites happen, where they were reading, writing as they went. Because the first two acts, I'm like, okay, I understand. Like you could tell, there's where the story points was. Okay, Mark Wahlberg's in space, then he gets sent, and he goes through a portal, ends up on the planet, and then of course the apes capture him. He goes to the city, escapes the city, and then they're like, all right, now what do you guys got? And then that's where you feel like that's where they started saying, maybe he goes back to his ship and he digs out some stuff, and then maybe like the thing the one I started like losing, like, okay, this is where you're losing me, is when, okay, they go to like the gorilla camp for no reason, and just to start their tents on fire, and then they swim in the lake. I'm like, I could have. This feels so much like this was shot later, and then they added this in. Like this feels like this was when the apes were setting up war camps, and like Thad shows up and he's in the camp, only Brand's held about on the corner. It feels like that's when this scene took place. And I feel like if you would have told me that happened, like they just recut it and then put that scene earlier because they wanted to show more bad apes, I would believe that. Because this movie, like I heard, like the writers said, like they said they were rewriting the script as they were shooting. Mark Wahlberg, no writer, no actor would legit sign on for this movie, and I know Harrison Ford was considered, and so was like other actors were considered for this movie. Harrison Ford and Leonardo DiCaprio, and like Daniel Day Lewis was considered for the villain as
Wow.
Thad, and there's
Well,
Daniel Day Lewis even said he refused to sign on unless he read the script. And Tim Rosso, the only reason he signed on was because he wanted to work with Tim Burton. Same reason Mark Wahlberg signed on was because he said, Tim Burton's directing this. Like Mark Wahlberg said 5 minutes into the meeting, Tim Burton, he goes, I'm doing it. I don't care if there's a script or not. And Mark Wahlberg said, Fox is what ruined the movie, because he said Fox would literally come up and say, oh, we don't want to do this. Oh, we don't want to do that. Oh, we don't want because it was supposed to be a kid love interest, was supposed to be Helena Bonham Carter's character. That was Mark Wahlberg's love interest in the movie. Fox said no because that's to bestiality. And they're like, Tim Burton's like, it's a woman in an ape costume. It's not
yeah. Not,
really.
not to mention that in the original, Taylor and Zira literally kiss. So, like, what was Fox playing at here?
Oh, Fox even said like, oh, he said Tim Burton even begged, well, can I just please show that there's chemistry between them? Nope. They said nope, you cannot, because that's too weird. And they're like, they said they forced the kiss at the end with the blonde woman. They said he has to kiss her at the end. If you want to kiss somebody, you can kiss her, because that is like that is, it's a human. And also, there's this movie does have some good plots. Like this does feel like the draft of the Roman Empire. You could tell where they took some of the previous draft and then they rewrote it. Like this does feel like, okay, they had the Roman Empire drafts right, but then it feels like, because the other one, the original movie, feels like, okay, this is more of like apes on horses and guns. It feels more like modernized compared to this one. Feels more medieval.
The thing that like stuck out to me is like, all right, they can ride horses and like do all of that, but then like when they're off the horses, the ape's primary weapon of offense is the double axe handle. I'm like, surely at a certain point they would have learned more combat than just smash, like Donkey Kong's like level of offense.
Yeah, in which, you know what? some of like the thing that had me, I'm like, you have a council, you have a government and all that stuff, but yet you don't know what technology, or technology is like, oh, what is this sorcery? And I'm like, surely, like, if you're that intelligent enough to have, like, you're that intelligent, obviously. And also it's supposed to explain, it explains like, okay, so basically Mark Wahlberg went through a portal, or like, like this portal, it was like a wormhole, so basically he went forward 1,000 years.
Yeah, not to mention there was an entire scene in which the ape like family like that with Helena Bonham Carter, who's the daughter of, and like her father are like talking about welfare states and stuff. I'm just sitting there like, you know what welfare states are, but you don't know what tech certain technologies are. Like, your priorities are just perfectly in sync. Like,
Yeah, which also, like, like, and also they try to, like, they literally try to, like, oh, like they find the guns, like the apes took over, and like, oh, like, oh, Thaddeus's family, trying to make it like Thaddeus's family was the one that took over, the evil apes that took over. I'm like, okay, get the fuck out of here, okay, like, come on, like, yeah, that's too on the nose, it's like, oh yeah, well, it turns out we're meant to destroy humankind all along.
uh, I did want to shout out the makeup before we go any further. The
Rick
makeup
Baker.
was done by Rick Baker, and honestly, it's one of the best parts of the whole movie. I mean, you're never going to be able to top the original, like the original stuff, but by God, like he being Rick Baker, pronouns pal, like he came as close as any to like
Being John Chambers.
pretty much, yeah, and also adding his own like little touch to it. Though I'm not going to lie, while the makeup is very good, Helena Bonham Carter legit, and I texted you this, she looks like Michael Jackson, and I could not unsee it.
You know why? Because they had literally, that Rick Baker said they had no eyebrows. All the females had no eyebrows. But then the studio said that was creepy. Can you put them on, add eyebrows?
It's like every time I saw her, like the Wayne, like the thing from Whose Line Is It Anyway, where Wayne Brady like is doing the dating service video and he has the white mannequin head with the long hair. It's like, "Hi, I'm Michael Jackson,"
Hi, I'm Michael Jackson.
and I'm just like I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
It just
Um.
took me out.
Yeah. And also, this movie, like Rick Baker said when he was designing the apes, he said that usually we have 6 months to design stuff. Fox, when they greenlit it, because he said they had a 2001 release date, and they were like, "We're making the 2001 release date." They told them, you got 4 months to start preparing all the costumes and everything, all the makeup and stuff. And they're like, usually we have 6 months. 4 months is not. They said they did it because Jared Baker said he was coming off Ron Howard for How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and his mom had just died. And Tim Burton literally messaged him and said, Can you? I'm directing Planet of the Apes. Would you do the makeup effects for all this?" And he said he always dreamed, because about reading, like he idolized John Chambers' makeup, and he is part of the reason he got in the business. And he said, absolutely, I would do it. And he jumped at it. But the only thing is, when Fox told him, "Oh, you have 4 months," he said they was a pain in the ass. They literally had a Ron Perlman. They had a Ron Perlman model and another actor model that they would come in, and then they would base like the apes off of Ron Perlman's face. Like they took Ron Perlman's face, like a model of Ron Perlman's face, and then they put the ape makeup display in that and said, like they said all the apes are based off of two actors, Ron Perlman and another actor.
Yes, because every human being is obviously looking like Ron Perlman. Like, were they on drugs? They must have been on drugs.
Well, I mean, he was grieving. Okay, so I mean, to be
No,
fair,
I'm not talking about Rick Baker. I'm talking about Fox.
it's like every actor is like, Ron Perlman looks like an ape. Okay, that's what they're trying to say. Okay, Ron Perlman looks like an ape. I mean, that's why they cast him as Hellboy. Okay, they're trying to say Ron Perlman looks like an ape. I'm like, which I'm sure Ron Perlman's like, fuck you, Fox. Fuck you, Fox. It's like Ron Perlman's like, okay, we need to base all our monkeys off of Ron Perlman. And Ron Perlman's like, fuck you. It's like, it'd be like, all right, who is the ugliest actor we can possibly get? Walt Goggins. Every actor should look like Walt Goggins, and Walt Goggins is like, I'm not that ugly, motherfucker.
Walden Gog.
Walt he said they don't even know his full name. They say Walt Goggins. He's like, my name is Walton Goggins, but it's not Walt. Whatever, Walt. It's like,
Everybody in the movie looking like baby Billy Friedman from The Righteous Gemstones.
it's like, oh, he's got half his hair. It's like, Which I honestly think Walt Goggins. I keep calling him Walton Goggins. His name Walton. Well, maybe he should just change his name Walt, like Walt Disney. Walt. But if I ever meet him, I'm gonna call him Walt just to piss him. Walt, hey Walt. That's Walton. Okay, Walt. It's like whatever. Take
Well,
the damn.
I do want to say though that I thought that the performances were mostly pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Mark Wahlberg, I mean, hey, what are you doing over there? Like we make fun of the voice, but I thought he did well, and
This is
like
his face. This is his
and
whole fucking face throughout the whole movie.
he would be in he would do much better for himself with like The Departed and The Fighter and Patriots Day and Deepwater Horizon, pretty much anything by Peter Berg. So he would get better, but I thought he was fine here. Paul Giamatti, though, let's talk about him because he was having the time of his life, and
This is his favorite role.
you were telling me off screen this is his favorite role.
He literally said he literally was so happy to go to set every freaking him and Michael Clark Duncan were like, this is the best role ever. Michael Clark Duncan has a behind the scenes on the DVD of him going to set, going, we're remaking Planet of the Apes, so reimagining. Tim Burton's directing, and Michael Clark Duncan goes in the makeup chair at 4 a.m. And then it's the funniest shit ever. He's in the makeup chair, putting on, it's like 7:30 in the morning, and then Mark Wahlberg comes in and goes, hey, what's up, Michael? And then he just says, all right, I'm good. All right, bye. It's
like Michael Clark Duncan and Paul Giamatti are like Gene Kelly from Singing in the Rain. Like I'm singing in the rain. Just knowing they're in this movie. It's just like bless Michael Clark Duncan, rest in peace. He has the line.
Take your stinking hands off me, you damn dirty human!
Charlton Heston also has a line in this one.
Damn them. Damn them all to hell!
Literally, we have 2 cameos from the original actor. Nova is literally like one scene in the cage on Mark Wahlberg where she doesn't say anything, which I found out later that I guarantee you the only reason she got in the movie because her husband is Richard D. Zunick,
Who produced the movie, so that makes a lot of sense. And
so it's like,
I wonder what it must have been like for Charlton Heston to be on that set and like people to be around him because he only has the one scene and he's in the makeup, which that must have been an interesting process to like get this damn paint off of me, you damn dirty makeup artist.
it's like, once he gets the makeup off,
Be
It's
like
like-
his role in Alaska. I want that bear.
I'm surprised he says this makeup chair is a madhouse. You see, a madhouse. Yeah, just. I mean, this movie, Tim Roth is great as the villain. He plays an evil person, like in this movie. He's just like he makes every feature like he literally just plays this up. And he turned down the lead role of the professor. He literally was going to play Professor Snape in the Harry Potter films. And he turned it down to do this movie.
To quote Sir Richard from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, he chose poorly. But Tim Roth is really, like, he lights up every scene that he is in. He understood his assignment, bless his heart.
Like he moves even like he's evil. Like he goes, like he literally is like, because Planet of the Apes is a metaphor. Like the book is a metaphor for racism in America.
Yes.
In the 50s. And so basically, it deal with segregation. So basically, instead of like they take the apes and they put white people, as the apes are like are the white people in this movie, and then of course they make the they take like all the humans in the movie and they make them slaves, and so that's basically the categorism for this movie is like, okay, so the humans are slaves and the apes are like the hierarchy in this, and it's kind of really messed up, how this is, and especially Tim Roth is a big old racist in this movie. He hates them. He not only does he hate them, he wants to wipe them off the face of this earth. He literally is waiting. He said, "Let's just kill all the humans." To which I'm like, "Why would you do that? Because you have nobody to serve you then."
Yeah,
Like,
who is going to like drive your car or drive the wagon?
who's gonna clean your horse? Who's gonna literally like do all your dishes for you?
You need to think this through, ape man. But But like you were talking about earlier, the rewrites are definitely noticeable because Wahlberg is literally like in Ape City for like what it feels like 10 minutes, and then he immediately escapes with Chris Christopherson and a bunch of others.
He was in this movie for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and I was texting you like when he gets off, and I was like, I wonder who's thinking, where's Blade when you need him?
Like, I mean, like he died in Blade 2, to be fair. He died in Blade 1 and Blade 3. And you're just like, at that, by the time you get to Blade 3, it's like, who gives a
I
fuck?
mean, even then, Blade's kind of unreliable, but
I mean, to be fair, yes. I mean, but yeah, I will say I do think that like just like this movie had the same issue Godzilla had. Godzilla had a bunch of rewrites on it too.
yeah.
Only Godzilla, I think, would turn out to be a movie that was well liked. I mean, definitely. And Godzilla though had the same issue of killing off Bryan Cranston early. This movie killed off Chris Christopherson early. I guarantee you, probably in the script, it was probably longer. But then I guarantee it was either Chris Christopherson was like, "Look, I just want to die and get over with because I'm tired of this bullshit script." Or it was that, or it was probably because they were just the writers were trying to figure out something to do with his character and they have nothing else to do. And they're like, "We already casted him. We'll kill him off." Because that has happened in movies where they've casted too many people and they're like, "Well, what do we do? Kill off these people." That has happened. But yet we have characters in this movie that are just there, like the guy from The Mummy, okay, the bald guy that's like one of the servants.
Yeah, I noticed him
He has
too.
no lines really.
Yeah, it's side road. Collins is going to be joining me on the 1999 project to talk about the Mummy very soon. So cheap plug there. But when I saw him, I'm like, oh, that's the dude from the library in the Mummy.
He's like, ah, ah. I just think like he's in this movie for no reason. I mean, he has more lines on Paul Blart Mall Cop than he has in this movie.
Isn't he the cell phone salesman in that movie?
Yes.
Wow.
There's even a scene in the movie where Kevin James and Paul Blart Mall Cop, where he puts like a straw, he's drunk and he tries to put a straw in his mouth, then he opens his mouth up and he goes, like, what the fuck? It's like I scene in Batman versus Superman. It feels like Batman versus stole that scene from Paul Blart Mall Cop, but Lex Luthor trying to shove the Starburst in the guy's mouth. He's like, and he licks his lips.
Ah, yes, Zack Snyder, known Paul Blart Mall Cop stan,
He's
but
like, we just need more action slow motion sequences in that movie, and it would be great with the segue just going.
the ending of the movie, we get the big battle at the remains of the human spaceship, which very clever that the fuel, or very convenient, I should say, that the fuel is left over in there for him to use as a big old bomb.
Did you ever get Army of the Darkness vibes at the end of the movie where the apes blow up?
Yeah, kinda.
Because it feels like when Ash did that when he blows it in the bag, it goes, ooh, ooh. Like, it just felt like that. All the apes just go flying. I'm like, this reminds me of Army of Darkness. Like, just it seems like Tim Burton, not Tim Burton, but like one of like someone, I don't think Tim Burton would do that, like rip off another artist, but it feels like someone on production saw Army, probably Richard Zunick, saw Army of Darkness, was like, can we make it funny like that where all just blow up? Well, we can't kill them because we get an R rating. So then they just make it like inconvenient. Like they get blown up and all the apes go flying, which I'm like, bullshit, they would have died. Instead, they all like, oh, that hurt. Oh. And then they'll just start beating the shit out of them. And I'm just like, in what world does the explosion that knocks an ape like a rag doll across the freaking field not kill them, and then they just get up and they just wake up and go, oh, that hurt. Like I'm like, are you Superman? Because like there's even a scene where like you see the actual ape when it lands, the chimpanzee lands at the end. You see that chimpanzee and everybody worships it like a god, and then all of a sudden everybody but Tim Roth's like, not buying that shit. And then all of a sudden, like, to me, I feel like that was so convenient. Like that was just like, it was very like plot time. Like it was very time, because I'm like, it feels like that's what like just cheap shit like that is what irks me. Where it's like, okay, it feels like they didn't have nothing to do, so they're like, all right, Helena Carter, she just hides in the battle, and then an ape comes down like that we lost, and I was kind of confused. I'm like, but I'm like, oh yeah, they explain like all the apes get free, and I mean, but yeah, I do think that's where it falls apart, kind of like Tim Roth should have died in that movie. Instead, he just goes like they trap him and they're like, all right, he's done.
And he just like crawls under the dashboard because symbolism, like I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, the original Planet of the Apes movies, with the exception of Conquest, are all rated G. And those movies had more brutal deaths than in this one, which was rated PG-13. So, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, like the worst death is like whenever Michael Clark Duncan beats it beats Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat to death, like beating
Right.
on his chest going. Brrr. Yeah, that's who plays it. I did not know that for years. I was like, wait, that's Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat. It's like
Small
really,
world.
it's like
But
your
the
soul. He should have said whenever he saw Michael Clark Duncan, your soul is mine.
fine. But the true ending of the movie, and this is where we're going to spoil it, but the movie is coming up on 25 years old, and I'm sure if you're
You
watching
haven't
this,
seen it in 25%. If you have not seen this movie, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, come on. It's like a 2001 spoiler. Okay.
but Mark Wahlberg lands on Earth, and as it turns out, it is the Earth that is ruled by the apes, and there is Thane as Abraham Lincoln at the Lincoln Memorial, and it's like in this temple we honor General Thane, so Wahlberg has not gone back to his home; he's gone back in time.
No,
It's
he went back and he went to his home. He's in his home. What it is, like just like with the original Planet of the Apes, he's jumped. I used to think the same thing. Well, we went to an alternate universe. No, we didn't go to an alternate universe. He went to the Earth. He went through the time warp where basically Earth progressed. Like that right there, that Earth, he was on Earth whenever he left the planet, and he went back to Earth. He basically did a loop de loop, and then it went like 1,000 years later. So basically, he literally is on Earth, but the apes have took over Earth. Like basically saying like your race, your species died, like something cataclysmic happened to Earth. They crash landed on Earth, and something cataclysmic happened when he was in that portal or something. Something cataclysmic happened to Earth, probably a meteorite or something, supernova or something happened. And then of course they had to restart humanity with apes, and then of course the human race died off, and now apes are back on prominent race, and humans are basically just like the apes in the situation.
I guess to put it a little more simply, it's like that scene in Back to the Future Part 2 where Doc Brown is like, we can't because if we try to go Back to the future, it'll be the future of this reality. Like
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, like in the original ending where like you see that he actually is in the future. Like he thinks that he's on a different planet, but he's in the future because he sees the Statue of Liberty. He realizes, oh my God, I'm not. I am on Earth. Like the coordinates got right. It's just the Statue of Liberty. He goes, I'm just 1,000,000,000,000,000 years ahead. Like basically civilized. The idea of civilization restarts again. But do you know who wrote the Planet of the Apes? The big twist at the end.
Who?
Twilight Zone guy.
Rod Serling?
Yeah, he rewrote the ending and made it where the Statue of Liberty. That's Rod. That's not in the book at all either. That's Rod Sterling wrote that.
Oh yeah, I believe I brought it up in my review for the OG one where his original idea was to set it in the world where like the apes live in a futuristic society in the original one, but the budget was too big.
Yeah, so the apes like the thing they kept was he sees the Statue of Liberty and realizes that, oh my God, I am on Earth. It's just, which by the way, this movie, when we were talking, I told you this movie looks very similar. Like the new movie coming out, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, reminds me so much of this movie because
Yeah,
they even
Wes
have an ape villain who's like a king that hates humans, and they have humans, and then they have a character that talks and is dressed like a soldier or whatever. I'm just like, it looks very cute. The Spider-Man 3 clip.
similar. But I'm still excited for it. I
Imagine it's just like a shot-for-shot remake of this movie. Would you be mad if you're like, oh, for fuck's sakes? Like,
Wes Ball, what are you doing? But
Tim Burton needs to have a word with you.
to bring things to a close, I am going to give Planet of the Apes 2001 a good rating. And I don't know how controversial this is going to be, but I did not hate this movie. There is enough good things in the movie to where to go, all right, if it was literally any other name, like say
They were
remove
going to
the
call it The Visitor. They were going to call it The Visitor because they were afraid. Fox told Tim Burton. They were saying like, oh, they were afraid that because Planet of the Apes is such an iconic title and it's such an iconic movie, they were afraid that people would be upset with this movie. So they wanted to call it The Visitor, starring Mark Wahlberg. But they're like, Tim Burton said, what? That's stupid. He goes, no. And he said, no, we're going to call it Planet of the Apes. By the way, this movie was not a flop either. I know some people misconception. This movie made 300 million, almost 400 million dollars at the box office, and they were going to do another. No, actually, it's 400. Actually, it's 400 something million, almost 500 million. They were going to do a second film. Like this movie made like 180 million in profit. They were going to do another one, but what happened was Tim Burton said no because he had such a problematic friction with Fox on this movie. He said, and I quote, "I would rather jump out of a window than to make a sequel to Planet of the Apes." And Mark Wahlberg and Helena Bonham Carter both said they would not make a sequel unless Tim Burton is involved. So then Fox basically said, "Oh, we're not going to make one."
And then we got Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which was a step in the right direction, but that is for Wednesday. But like I said, giving 2001 version a good rating, and I feel like that's going to be a bit of a hot take, but there's enough in this movie to where I was saying to myself, this is nowhere near the quality of the original, but I don't necessarily think this is like as awful as I've seen some people say. It's like it's kind of just it's a mediocre attempt to try and like do something that was already pretty much perfect in the 68 version. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. But I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of this movie? Let us know in the comments. Love to read what you have to say. Jacob, thank you so much for joining me for this. Like I did touch on briefly, you're going to be coming back on for the 1999 project to talk about The Mummy, but you are also 1/3 of Small Talk, and I believe by the time this drops, the watch along for the 100th episode of Smallville called Reckoning has not happened yet. It is happening tomorrow, and I'm very much looking forward to that.
And our other podcast, Talking Silence.
I was just getting to that. But what else do you got coming up on your channel?
I'm selling butt plugs now with movie cinema, so I have that to look forward to. No, sad. Probably somebody's actually gonna ask me that. Not, yeah, we're looking butt plugs, bro. I'm like, oh, you want a butt plug?
A certain somebody.
I just dropped a review for the Matrix Path of Neo video game review. That's doing well on my channel for some reason because people love nostalgia. And then on top of that, I dropped a review for a movie that traumatized me for 3 days, and I was in the shower crying with a cigarette in my mouth. Requiem for a Dream. Made me feel like a junkie, and I'm not even a junkie.
That's very, very true.
So it's a heavy freaking movie. I remember I just got a comment on there from a friend of ours from the channel, Joshua, saying that he goes, "This movie," he said, "is a good movie, but he would never watch it again." I feel like that. I feel like if I was like the Roger E. Record, I'm going to steal from you, where he says, "I like what Darren Aronofsky did, but I hate it."
Yeah, it's like that's my entire attitude for Requiem. It's like very well made, but like if I never watch this again, it'll be 5 years too late. And like honestly, like all the Aronofsky movies I've ever seen, like could best be described as that. But
most of his movies are basically like, this dude must smoke a lot of crack and then just write these script down, because no way this dude ever just like no one. I don't understand how he comes up with these concepts. It's like David Lynch concepts.
it's like when he made Mother, I'm just like, oh, well, this is what happens when you have a bad experience at Bible camp. but
I honestly, somebody was trying so freaking hard to sell it like it's Rosemary's Baby remake. Even the trailers mislead. I watched that movie and I'm like, this is nothing like Rosemary's Baby. This is like, it reminds me of a fucked up improv class where people are just like, it just seems like there's no direction. It's just like, Michelle Pfeiffer, say something and act crazy. Kristen Wiig, say something, act crazy. And it looks like, all right, watch this. Oh, shit, I go, ah! And just like, what the fuck is that? There's not even names for the protagonist. There's no names. Just like her name is Mother. I'm just like, Darren Aronofsky, the script must have been very like pages. Like the script must have been like less than 10 pages. It just must have been like scenes. Just like, okay, this is a scene. There's no lines. Just throw it, whatever you got out there. I would like to be a fly on the wall and just hear his direction going like,
the pitch to the studio must have been, you know the Bible, right? Yes. They're like, well, what if it was retold by the Jackass crew? Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville, and this is the Book of Genesis. Down, 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 down.
I mean, you would not be wrong with that. Just like all of a sudden, like, It's like, I mean, really, the weirdest shit is ever. It's just like, especially the birthing scene when they just start stomping on the baby. I'm like, what the fuck? I was just laughing, like, what is this movie? I honestly would rather just rip off Rosemary's Baby. At least that is something interesting. This one is just like, it's like watching The Room, but with a higher budget. Higher budget.
But Jacob's channel is linked in the description. Go give him a subscribe there. Let's get him to 200 subscribers.
You will wait. There's a video going to drop any day now when that hits 200.
But as far as this channel goes, this coming Wednesday, we will be dipping our toes into the new reboot trilogy of starting off with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And so that'll be on Monday. But for Jacob Collins, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all in the next one.